Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And we have a very big announcement. We have another set of talent trees coming out. This is the foundation of Dragonflight, to which the rest of the expansion will be built upon. And it is very important that they hit the mark with these talent trees for class design moving forward into the next expansion. And with this video, I will be covering the talents and abilities for the Shadow Priest in this first look, giving my opinion on it, what's looking cool, what's looking exciting. And to be honest right now, based on gathering some opinions from others, when I initially looked at these talent trees, I was really worried, like, oh no, is it just they're just reshuffling existing abilities? But with priests specifically, they seem to have really hit the nail on the head with a lot of cool effects, returning abilities, and new effects as well. So in this one, we'll be covering the Shadow Priest. You're going to be getting, most interestingly enough, from the baseline spells is Flash Heal, which you didn't have, and this is something that all priests are going to be getting. So having access to Flash Heal when you're interrupted on Shadow, I do wonder if this will take you out of Shadow form, which then likely means you're going to need to keybind your Shadow form, but this was the most notable one onto the baseline spells. When we look at the class talents, being able to get Prayer of Mending, being able to get Renew, being able to be like a secondary healer was a very big deal that I noticed for Shadow Priest specifically overall. And if you want these like big detailed talents on these baseline rows, I highly suggest you check out my Discipline Priest video, which I will have linked at the end here, but a lot of these are a lot more kind of just focused on passives, not going to be super impactful towards Shadow Priest specifically. The big deal ones is going to be Throes of Pain, which was the best in slot battle for Azeroth Azerite trait, just 5% more damage on your dot damage. And it was very important back then, so I do imagine it will continue to be. Getting power infusion and double power infusion, and your choices between kind of like a Shadow Fiend build or a Mind Games build potentially, and you see that towards when you get to the bottom of the baseline or the class talent selection. You can get access to Holy Word Life, which could end up being a really big cheese mechanic in PvP, because it's basically a 30-second cooldown lay on hands when a target is below 20%, which is where the risk comes in. You got to let them get below 20% to get the lay on hands. But I'm thinking they're likely going to err towards Mind Games in PvP at least, and Shadow Flame Prism for just kind of massive AoE damage. Shadow Priest doesn't really start getting into really powerful stuff until we start looking at their specific talent tree, which of course we are going to be doing right here in this video. Your baseline abilities are going to be Shadow Form, of course, Mind Flay, Vampiric Touch, Devouring Plague, and Mind Seer. You do have to choose these though on the talent tree, although you'll likely get them in all situations. Death and Madness, Mind Bomb. You're going to choose between Mind Bomb and Psychic Voice, which means you can also get the stun with one of these with a low cooldown fear, which is going to be great for utility on Shadow Priest. Misery, being able to apply Shadow Word Pain along with Vampiric Touch, which is really good for applying your dots. And then it's kind of like a PvP PvE choice. Searing Nightmare being AoE damage that you're going to apply to just a bunch of mobs. Silence being a talent you're going to have to go for 4-second silence. And then Fortress the Mind being extra damage on your Mind Flay and your Mind Blast. You really don't start to see the power of this until we get to a new talent as we scroll through this, and that's going to be like the big one that stands out. These are more or less kind of abilities that were existing talents or baselines. So Vampiric Embrace, of course, Unfurling Darkness for instant dot application, Vampiric Insight for just Vampiric Touch, periodic damage, having a chance. This is actually a very important one. Vampiric Insight, Vampiric Touch, periodic damage has a chance to reset the remaining cooldown of your Mind Blast and make it instant. This is kind of a core foundation of a potential build that I think is going to likely kind of dominate at the moment. Last Word to get a reduced cooldown on your silence, plus all the mind bombs, so you can kind of do this utility-oriented Shadow Priest or glass cannon-oriented Shadow Priest when I was looking through the talent specifically, by choosing to drop out of this extra dispersion for more crowd control. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, if players are going to go for more utility versus damage. Sand Lane, just Vampiric Embrace, reduce cooldown. Hallucinations, just your dispels are going to generate insanity. Shadowy Apparitions, you're going to have to talent for. You may not actually even be able to get them when I was looking through the talent window if you want to go for the build that I was looking at. So you got some really hefty choices you're going to have to make. Void Eruption you're going to have to talent for, and now Monomania, the new one. While channeling Mind Flay or Mind Seer, the periodic rate of your Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on your current target is increased by 100%, and Mind Blast gains an additional charge. So this could be a lot of damage. Genesis from Warlords of Draenor is what I think of for Resto Druids, which was really overpowered. You could rejuve, Swiftman rejuve Genesis, and just that target's going to full health. So this could make Mind Flay a lot more desirable to press, at least when it comes to PvP. And of course, Psychic Horror. So you could choose to drop crowd control as well. If you're playing something as a rogue that has a lot of stuns, choosing to drop out of the crowd control and go just for all damage talents and become like an Omega Glass Cannon could be an option for you, which is why I like these Shadow Priest talents a lot more than the ones I've seen for Balance Druid specifically, feels like a lot more hefty weight, specifically between those choices. Intangibility to buff the dispersion. It's going to be healing you for 50% more, as well as the cooldown reduction. So you have to big up some or drop some big things to get these damage options. Psychic Link, just more damage from Mind Blast to your dotted targets. Auspicious Spirits, just generating more insanity and giving you more damage. But again, you may not go for a Shadowy Apparition build. You don't have to. Choice Node, Hungering Void, which is just Void Bolt, increases your damage to the target by 10%, or Surrender to Madness. And this is where I'm wondering how the talents with Honor talents are going to work, because you could technically get Surrender to Madness in PvP and Hungering Void, because it's Surrender to Madness is an Honor talent. Damnation, which is just the instant applied dots that we saw to improve quality of life for Shadow Priest and Shadowlands, is continuing forward. Void Touch, while not in Void form, Mind Flay has a 5 to 10% chance to allow you to cast Void Bolt twice, giving you that big extension during your Void form. Shadow Crash is going to continue into Dragonflight as a talent. Ancient Madness for extra critical strike. Malediction, reducing the cooldown of your damnation, giving you more instant dots more frequently. Void Torrent, which chains into a lot of important talents if you want to try that kind of Mind Flay build, this new one that I saw. Mental Fortitude, healing from Vampiric Touch when you're at maximum health will shield you. This is a mechanic that is generally very powerful in things like PvP, especially when you're not the target, to just get a shield bolstered up like a Fleshcraft before you do become a target later on. Insidious Ire, while your Shadow of Pain, Devouring Plague, and Vampiric Touch are on the target, your Mind Blast deals 40% more damage, so maybe you focus on a Mind Blast build. Mind Devourer, Mind Blast deals 5 to 10% more damage and has a 10 to 20% chance to make your Devouring Plague cost no insanity. Really good synergies between that instant proccing Mind Blast, similar to how it is right now in Shadowlands. And then Sanguine Teachings, while shielded, Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague deal more damage. Seems like they're carrying forward that idea from Discipline Priest with Smite doing more damage. Don't know if it will really work for you. If you're not a target, it will give you 15% more damage though, so maybe. Unleash the Shadows. Vampiric Touch critical strikes have a 10% chance to call an apparition. Rot and Wither, Mind Flay, and Mind Sear have a 5% chance to extend Vampiric Touch and Shadow of Pain by a few extra seconds. So that super powered suck dot Mind Flay plus extending them could be really cool. Abyssal Knowledge, Monomania, that new talent we talked about, also increases the critical strike chance of Shadow of Pain and Vampiric Touch by 15%. But when I filled out the talents, I don't know if I could get apparitions plus the crit apparitions without losing some really core abilities, but you could do a huge amount of damage if you do drop those crowd control effects and utility to opt into the apparitions plus this, so you could be really glass cannon. I was honestly kind of disappointed with these idols of the old gods because they're not really effective, at least in PvP. Idol of N'Zoth, damage dealt by Shadow of Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague has a 20% chance to apply Echoing Void. Everyone remembers Echoing Void. Each time Echoing Void is applied, it has a chance to collapse, dealing shadow damage to all nearby enemies. Again, is it only nearby? Does it deal direct damage to the direct target? I don't know. Idol of Yasarj, this is one that I was laughing at the first time I saw it. Shadow Fiend causes you to gain a benefit based on your target's current emotional state. So what does that mean? If they're crowd controlled, are they mad? If they're not crowd controlled, they're fighting a Shadow Priest, so maybe they're happy. What happens when they're happy? We'll have to wait and see, because this thing could either be completely useless or the most crazy thing ever, especially with the Shadow Fiend talents and the class talents. Void Apparitions, Shadowy Apparitions have a 10% chance to become infused with Void, dealing 20% additional damage. Again, maybe an Apparition build will be really powerful. Living Shadow, I imagine in PvE with AoE fights, it could be really crazy. Living Shadow, Consuming Vampiric Insight causes your shadow to animate. This was one that I thought was the most crazy, most overpowered one. Consuming Vampiric Insight causes your shadow to animate. This is the instant free Mind Blast. It will animate a shadow, so a pet. You're going to get an extra pet, and for 10 seconds, whenever you cast a spell, your shadow will cast a similar spell. I'm assuming it's the same spell, maybe at a reduced effect. So you might be able to get like Double Purge, get 4 dots on a target, right, with Vampiric Touch, and then Shadow Word Pain is also automatically applied. So you could get an insane amount of dots out, Double Purge, and have a lot of kind of crowd control cover, get double Prayer of Mendings out, because Prayer of Mending and Renew, right, and get a bunch of purge protection for your team or extra heal effects. This one could be really crazy. That's why I wanted to try and figure out that build when I was filling in the talents. And of course, that type of stuff is going to be tested by me once we get access to the beta and the alpha and stuff like that, for sure. So if you want, first dives on that type of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Edalic Intuition, Vampiric Insight has a greater chance to occur, which is just more single target damage with that Mind Flay build, which is excellent. And then the other idols, which are honestly kind of disappointing, potentially disappointing, I should say. Mind Flay and Mind Sear have a chance to spawn a Void Tendril or Void Lasher. I remember the tentacles from BFA, and Girthlack from Cataclysms. Like, if this thing hits that hard, it's gonna be really good. If it doesn't, it's gonna not be too great. It's probably going to flop, ironically, as it is a tentacle. Idol of Yogg-Saron. After conjuring 50 shadowy apparitions, you summon a Thing from Beyond. If you remember the Mage Tower, that Thing from Beyond hit really hard. I don't think we're getting that one, though. The Thing from Beyond blasts enemy for shadow damage, but could have potential. Maybe we see like a pet build where you got Shadow Fiends running around, cleaving all these targets, and then these Things from Beyond spawning potentially. A lot of really cool ideas in these talent trees. My worry is how it executes when you're trying to fill them out, and if you can actually connect all the dots you need to achieve these ideas and builds that seem to be presented so far. But overall, this was a lot more than I expected. I do hope that this type of attention and level of detail goes back into the other talents for things like Moonkin specifically, is going to be the one thing I'm complaining a lot about. But other than that, that is my first deep dive of the Shadow Priest. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, leave the video with a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts. What are you thinking with the Shadow Priest? What build are you going to be going? What looks solid for you to have the most fun with for Dragonflight? This was definitely a very positive review of talent so far. And like I said, check out the Discipline Priest video that I have linked here in a moment if you want to review those class baseline talents as well. Other than that, thank you for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.